I have a confession to make. I never read the Silmarillion, and I feel like that's a prerequisite for a good Tolkien content creator. The first Tolkien book that I read was The Hobbit. Not this copy of The Hobbit, though this is the one I eventually finished. It was a copy of The Hobbit in my primary school library, and I remember getting about a third of the way through it and a teacher seeing me reading it and being very impressed that I was reading The Hobbit at my age. I'm feeling very, very satisfied with myself. But then I was unable to finish it, or unwilling. And then I heard about the movies coming out over the next couple of years, and I got really into the idea of reading them all before the films started coming out, or at least keeping up with the release of the films. So I read The Hobbit when I was maybe 10 or 11, I think, and I loved it. And I started reading the first book of The Lord of the Rings as well. And then my parents got me an illustrated encyclopedia of Tolkien's universe, and that was what really grabbed me. I just remember it having the most beautiful illustrations in it by all sorts of artists, but I think that might be part of the reason why I got really into the lore before I'd even finished the books, and then carried on being preoccupied with lore, getting obsessed with the sort of universe world building behind things, as well as the actual texts themselves. I was obsessed with Lost a few years later and things like that, and the whole Dharma Initiative stuff. It wasn't until years later when I was traveling on my gap year, and I went to Thailand on my own and was completely out of my depth at the age of 18, and travelled to Pai in North Thailand and got food poisoning and was stuck indoors for a week in the sweaty heat. And I had happened to collect this edition, not this copy, this is a new copy, but the big red edition of the whole Lord of the Rings trilogy as one book, and just sort of hallucinatorily getting my way through the whole book in a week and absolutely adoring it. And not only that, but just sort of like, actually, I went to Middle-earth for a week. I was there. That's the extent of my Tolkien reading. I own a version of most of Tolkien's work, and there's lots going into the shop, including this true first edition Silmarillion. Join me as I earn my place as a Tolkien content creator.